Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson. You're watching a 5 On racing show live from New York. Welcome to another night of race talk. And I'll tell you, we're getting to the point where racing is just around the corner. The thing that we do week after week, weekend after weekend. And yes, 22 figure 8, the Oakdale merge was not an issue tonight. But welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, tonight we're going to talk about where are they now. We're going to have NASCAR Whelen Modified 2003 champion Todd Szegedy in the Where Are We Now segment, and three-time Cup champion David Pearson, which is going to have some interesting stuff to tell you about David Pearson. We have some updates out of the indoor races at Atlantic City and what's next in store for them. Some of the rule changes that NASCAR has put forth in the 2018 rule book. And also we're going to talk about sanctioning and the advantages and disadvantages about being a sanctioned NASCAR racetrack, if there is a disadvantage. Anyway, we're going to get right into Todd Szegedy. Todd Szegedy. Todd. Todd Szegedy, born in May of 1976 out of Ridgefield, Connecticut. Todd got his feet wet, so to speak, racing go-karts. And go-karts is the place that many modified drivers start. It seems like they go right from go-karts to modifieds these days. Back in our day, back when I was young and in the 60s and the 70s, there weren't go-karts that you could be in a sanctioning group where you could drive go-karts and work your way up. But Todd Szegedy was very successful in go-karts. Between the WKA, the World Karting Association, and the IKA, the International Karting Association, Todd took down 11 championships. Then in 95 and 96, he was the SCCA champion, the Sports Car Club of America champ. Then he came to NASCAR, 2002, Rookie of the Year. 2003, NASCAR Whelen Modified champion. And I'll tell you what, that was my second year as a race director on the tour. And I want to share a story with you about Todd and his crew chief at the time, Phil Moran. Here I am, I'm the race director. Todd wins the race. It's Thompson. They go to tech. Put 5 cars in tech, the top 4 and 1 at random. All of a sudden, the tech guy comes into the hauler, into the rig. We're sitting there with the series director, Ed Cox, one of the finest Southern gentlemen I will ever deal with in my lifetime. And our head tech guy goes, "We got a problem." "What's the problem?" The 50 car. He drove the 50 car then. The 50 car's illegal gear ratios. The entry blank in the rule for that race was very clear. What gear ratios you could run from the lowest to the highest. He wasn't even close. Now, I came from Long Island. I come from running the races at Riverhead, and anytime you had a disqualification or a rules question, it normally got ugly. Well, we got to bring Todd and his crew chief in. We bring him into the office, and I'm sitting at my table, and our series director is at his little corner of the office. And Ed Cox says, "Gentlemen, we got a problem." "Well, what's the problem?" "Gears are illegal. Gear ratio, no good." They looked at each other, and there was an awkward moment of silence. So they says, "Well, what's going to happen?" I says, "Well, it looks like you're going to be DQ'd and put to last. No money earned and no points. And now I'm anchored in. I'm ready for the barrage. I'm ready to get hammered, and how my officials don't know what they're doing, and blah, 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 blah. And Todd Szegedy looks at eye to eye, looks at me eye to eye, and said, I apologize. It's been a long time since you guys checked gear ratios, and we rolled the dice. You guys did a good job. Sorry. I truly and humbly apologize. And I'm sitting there pinching myself because I wasn't accustomed to that type of professionalism from a disqualified race car driver. Here's a guy that's trying to win the championship. In fact, and the year that he did this was 2002, and he ended up being Rookie of the Year. But we ran 23 or 24 races that year, and to lose one is big in the points. So they got up, they shook our hands, and they left. I look at Ed Cox and I said, Ed, I didn't expect that. He goes, well, you're used to those guys at Riverhead that, they want to blow up your house and, kill your family, and it's not that bad. I mean, they threaten that. It's never happened, but that's what I was used to. And here I was in a position where I'm new to this race director for a touring series, and I'm not sure of what to expect. And the professionalism that Todd Szegedy showed that day put me in a comfort level. And anytime I've seen Todd at other racetracks, at other race series, him and I talk about that day. And he goes, hey, we weren't trying to bend the rules. We just knew that was something that they hadn't checked in forever. So who's gonna know? And instead of having a 471 rear, we had a 491. To those of numbers people, that couple of points, or tenths of a point, doesn't look like a lot. But back then, 0.2 of a second made the difference of being in the front row of the race or going home. So that was big. So I just wanted to say that because Todd, he was, like I said, the 2003 NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour champion. And at that time, he was the youngest Modified Tour champion because most of the Modified champions up to then were well into their 30s and 40s. When he left the tour, he was 9th in NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour victories. He spent 1 year in the Xfinity Series, 3 races, didn't show the success that he had in the Modifieds. Is a whole different world. In the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Series, he had 212 starts, 19 wins, and he was the runner-up in the points twice, in 2007 and in 2011. So Todd Szegedy, the 2003 NASCAR Wheel and Modified point champion, always a gentleman to me, excuse me, and always the type of guy, if he saw me walking around the racetrack, whether I was Mahoning Valley or Evergreen or Thompson or Stafford or wherever, he'd see me with the mic and he'd be more than happy to engage in conversation. So Todd is back in racing, so to speak. His 2018 plans, we reached out for him. He really didn't have anything that he could say, but guy's a gentleman, and wouldn't mind having him in any series as a race car driver. Modifieds, late models, weekly series, Campbell World Truck Series, Xfinity. And this is a guy, I think if he was, maybe came on board 10 years younger, we'd see him in a Cup car. So wish Todd success in his endeavors moving forward. Our next individual, and where I now, David Pearson. Now, David Pearson, yes, I got a little story about David, of course, but anyway, David Pearson, he was born in December of 1934, and he raced at various dirt tracks starting in 1952 near his hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina. David Pearson began his NASCAR career in 1960, which is a long time ago. Yes. In 1960, David Pearson came on board and was Rookie of the Year. He had 3 Cup championships in 1968, 1969, and his first coming in 1966. In 1974, Pearson competed in 19 of the 30 events and ended third in the point battle. He was also part of, there's a picture of the car, the Cotton Picker, was owned by Cotton Owens. That goes back to the day when, in 1965, when NASCAR banned the Chrysler Hemi motor, most of the drivers who were driving Chryslers boycotted NASCAR and went drag racing. NASCAR finally allowed that motor, and of course guys like Richard Petty and David Pearson got out of drag racing and went back to cup racing. Now when I talk about in 74, 19 of 30 events, missing 11 races, finishing third in points, you're sitting back, how could that happen? It wasn't like the chase now when Kyle Busch won and he missed half a season, but they put him in the playoffs. They didn't have playoffs back then. So what did they do? The points were different back in those days, back in the late 60s. The bigger the race, the bigger the payoff, the more points you earn. David Pearson made it a point only to run the high-paying big track races. So he stopped racing in '86, and he stopped racing full-time, I should say, being second on the all-time win list with 105 victories, second to Richard Petty. He still raced occasionally after that, even though he was kind of retired, but he would show up at the racetrack and he'd fill in for somebody. He'd finish a race for somebody who was tired or sick or whatever. But part of the reason that Pearson stopped racing was while he was driving for Moody, I should say, sorry, and things weren't going well. They told him they wanted to give him a 10% pay cut. I don't know what he was getting paid per race, but he decided that, no, I'm not taking a pay cut. And he sat out. Then in 1989, Pearson planned to come out of retirement, and he was going to replace the injured Neil Bonnet. They went to a practice session, and after a few short laps of practice, David Pearson pulled the car down the pit road and said, I can't take the pain in my back and my neck. That was the end of David Pearson in racing. In 1991, he was a NASCAR National Motorsports Press Association Hall of Fame member. In 1993, he was inducted into International Motorsports Hall of Fame. He is one of 10 finalists for the Driver of the Quarter Century. That's time span being 1967 and 1991. He did not make the number 1 spot. That spot went to a little lone driver named Mario Andretti. He also tried to run teams in the background, but you're a driver, you don't want to do that. In 2010, he withdrew his name from the NASCAR Hall of Fame balloting because he wanted his friend Raymond Parks to get in, and he didn't want to ruin that for his friend. That's a true friend, people. The following year, he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. In 28 years driving race cars in NASCAR, he had 574 starts, 105 wins, which is almost 1 win every 5 times out. He had 2 seasons in what is now known the Xfinity Series. In that 2 seasons, he had 6 events with 1 win. He also had 6 races in 3 seasons in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West, which was then the NASCAR West Series. David Pearson. And I'm going to share that little story with you. I was being transferred by my job down south to Greensville, South Carolina. I went to my NASCAR boss and said, hey, my job's talking to me about a transfer. And how's this going to work? You guys going to fly me up to the Northeast for the modifieds? And he said, I'll have to get back to you. Next thing I know, we have a talk. There's an opportunity for me in Greenville, in the Greenville area. So I got to fly down and get the lay of the land, and on UPS's dime. And Ed Cox sets it up that one of his friends is going to show me around, and he's going to show me, where to live, where not to live, where my office is going to be, how to go against traffic instead of stuck in traffic. And he said, my friend he'll meet you at the airport. Who is he? His name's Dave. You'll know who he is. I get off the plane, and there's a guy holding a checker flag out as I walk through the gates. And I look, and it's David Pearson, the Silver Fox. That can't be the guy. I go up to him and says, Dave? He goes, Joe? We spent the day driving around getting the lay of the land. And that was fun. And yes, 22 figure out, he did. David Pearson did own a team with his son Larry Pearson, and with the Chattanooga Chew sponsorship, and just ran out of money. It's a tough thing. But David Pearson, another Southern gentleman, nice race car driver, successful in everything he drove in. We're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on in NASCAR when we come back.
Hey, what's up? Oh, I was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
that view that we come back from commercial, that was taken at the Wall Speedway down in Wall, New Jersey. And if you've never had an opportunity to sit in a race car and do that, that track, the track is set down again, so you actually go down this ramp, and I'll tell you, I've done it a few times, and it's pretty fun. And the track that I raced on the most, Riverhead Raceway here in Long Island, you actually go up a ramp, and you're looking at the sky, and then you go down onto the embankment. It's a pretty cool feeling. It's tough to explain. I know 22 figure eight, you've experienced it. I know Jay Slice in his Enduro days experienced it, at least at the local tracks, and it's just a fun experience. I don't know. Maybe I'm reminiscent. I'm going to be 60 years old, and I still want to play with cars. But anyway, NASCAR rules. NASCAR rules, the rule book came out, and it came out a while ago, but the term encumbered finish will no longer be used as a term, as the term was removed from the rule book, because it sounded silly. The powers to be, I guess, realized that, guy wins a race, and when you win a race, that automatically puts you in the chase, or at least the next segment of the chase. But if you win the race and you're found to be illegal for whatever it might be, they considered it an encumbered win, or if you go through tech and you're in the top 5 or whatever, or an encumbered finish. You don't get those points. You do not qualify for the Cup, for the chase, or they call it the playoffs now. Now, however, a level 1 or level 2 penalty will still be assessed, and you're still going to get docked those points in that finish. So all they did was eliminate encumbered finish, because here we are, you go to the end of the season, the end of that segment, what exactly is an encumbered? What are they talking about, encumbered? Whoever thought of that word, I'm glad they took it out, and I hope their feelings weren't hurt, that the person who came up with this. Some of the things they make, you got to be a jailhouse lawyer sometimes to understand the NASCAR rulebook. But I guess that's done on purpose. But anyway, there's also new pit road rules for 2018. 5 pit members over the wall instead of 6. The fueler, the guy who carries 11 gallons of fuel that weigh about 70 pounds, gas in the car, once it's in, once he's got it in and it's resting on the shoulder, he would reach, or she would reach over, and they do a Panhard adjustment, or they change a spring rate or something, and they would do that. They could no longer do that. They have to just concern themselves with fuel. The tire carriers, or the tire changers, they got to carry their own tires out. Used to be they'd run out there, 5 off, 5 on. Wow, that sounds familiar. And pass that tire off, no longer. Now, some of the teams are concerned because they feel that their job as a driver is to get into the pit box. Their crew comes over, does their things. Now there's something that's going to change because, like you said, now you need, who's going to do the adjustments? Who's going to help the tire changer? And who's going to do those things? They're a little concerned about that. But NASCAR looks at it this way. It's 40 teams in a race, and that's 40 less people on pit road. And as Jay Slice says, another thing is NASCAR's looking to slow down the pit stops. That's not going to happen, because you're going to see teams, and there are teams that have been doing this for years, practice pit stops at the shop every day. And I was at Roush Racing way back when Nat is in play. I went to visit and do some talking, and there they were. I heard the motor fired up. I heard the tires squealing. I heard the screeching, and then I hear that noise of the dogs coming off. And when they did that, they would time them and film. There'd be an overhead camera. There'd be cameras on the side, and they'd look at what's going on, and they'd change it. The Wood Brothers, they revolutionized pit stops. They're not going to slow down pit stops. Trust me, by week 2, they're going to be back to changing 4 tires, getting 22 gallons of fuel, and making adjustments in the same 11, 12 seconds they've been doing it in. So something that needs to be looked at again. And I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this in a bad way. This is what happens when the people making the rules never worked on a race car, never drove a race car, never got their hands dirty on pit stops. You can't have that. It'd be like somebody in the NFL making rules that never played football. It'd be like somebody in baseball making rules they've never played baseball. How do you have people making rules in a sport/business that they really know nothing about? I don't mean to put anybody down, but you got to pay your dues. And you know, it's like the kid whose dad owns also a trucking company. That kid doesn't go right into the family business and work in the front office calling the shots. No. He starts maybe sweeping the floor, moving freight in the warehouse, loading, unloading trucks, going out as a driver's helper, becoming a driver, dispatch. You work your way up. You don't, because your name sounds like a country in Europe, be able to just sit at the head table and make changes. And a lot of people I saw on social media today, they were talking about that Steve O'Donnell really makes all the decisions and Brian French just signs off on them. I worked for NASCAR. Nothing goes by and nothing is done without the blessing of the France family. And right now that's Brian. And here's a man that doesn't even really attend the races. He's not visible to the competitors, to the owners, to the fans, the people who pay his paycheck, so to speak. So that's the thing that upsets me. We all know about Danica Patrick. She has a ride for the 500 with her old former sponsor, GoDaddy.com. So that's good for her, I guess, with a guaranteed starting spot. We talked about that last week. And NBC's.com, Dustin Long, reported that Monster Energy drink is evaluating returning after 2018. They had a 2-year deal with an option for 2 more. They don't know if it's worth it. Their sponsorship costs $20 million a year, which is nothing compared to what Sprint paid. Sprint had a 10-year deal for $750 million. So for $75 million a year, Sprint was the title sponsor, and Monster came in at $20 million. Why? Because they couldn't find somebody. Okay? Couldn't find somebody. And 22 figure 8, you know, that's how he started. Now he's running this company. He got his hands dirty. Good deal, good deal. Oh, well, coming up in Daytona, the Advanced Auto Parts Clash will be February 11th, and the Daytona Front Row Qualifying will be February 12th. So that's this weekend, folks. Racing is here. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some more racing news that's going across at least the east end of the country when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Maston, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, some news out of Atlantic City, the indoor races, although they were 2 weekends ago. Just an update. TQ driver Mike Titeback, who wrecked badly into the turn 3 and 4 wall, remains hospitalized. He's in critical condition still. His family has asked for privacy during this difficult time. So nobody really knows what's wrong with him, what injuries he has. All we know, he's still critical. Mike Titeback, over his lifetime in racing, which was many, many, many years, has been injured many, many, many times. He's broken his back and multiple bones and concussions over the year. And 22 figure 8, yeah, man, God bless Mike Titeback. So, and I'm going to do this again. I'm going to ask all my viewers and listeners and friends and family, keep Mike in your prayers. I know what it's like to be injured in a race car. I know how it changes your whole life, especially in a situation like this. I mean, I don't know what he did for a living, or does for a living, I should say, but he's not doing that. And the wife is, I'm sure, is by his side, day in and day out. And when you see something like this, and I've seen many wrecks in my lifetime. I think we figured it out. I officiated over 6,000 races in my lifetime, and somebody called me out on that, and when I gave them the numbers and how we came up with it, the guy was like, holy bleep. I've seen some injuries. I've seen some deaths. I've seen some death of a person I called friend at racetracks. And we all know that going in as race car drivers. We're not just going on a roller coaster at Six Flags. We're strapping in, and we pull down on those belts, and you can't move, and you pull them down one more time. So you're not moving, and you go out there, and your car is 85 inches wide, and how many times did I and other drivers try to put that 85-inch wide race car into an 80-inch hole, so to speak? NASCAR and Formula One and Indy and Dirt and all these other series, NHRA, they make these vehicles, these race cars, as safe as they possibly can. And over the years, the safety has been improved year after year, sometimes as a direct result of a tragedy. Now, I don't know what could have been done for Mike in this wreck, and I said he slid on his side, and was going the same rate of speed that the car's going down the straightaway, and he hit with that noise. I mean, the cage didn't collapse. Did it bend? Yeah, it bent where it was supposed to bend to absorb energy, but I know his head hit that wall with some force, and no matter what kind of helmet you have, whether it's the helmet, I don't know if the helmet cracked. I don't know if it jogged his neck down. I don't know if his neck stretched like mine did, and that's what hit the wall before the cage did. I don't know. But I do know that one of our own gets injured in a racing accident. It kind of hits home. It kind of hits home, and especially a guy like me who got messed up pretty bad back in '96, and still suffering the ill effects of that. So again, I'm going to ask you to let's keep Mike in your prayers, and let's keep every competitor. Say a little prayer on the weekend, because you know there's tens of thousands of guys and gals out there racing from the highest level in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series to the guys who are racing outlaw racetracks across the world. You know, think about those guys and gals, because, you know, who wants to get hurt doing what they love and enjoy? Anyway, speaking of indoor racing, the last event for this weekend will be this weekend, February 9th and 10th in Albany at the Times Union Center. Justin Bonsieur is the TQ points leader at the moment with 25 points over Eric Rudolph. So Rudolph would have to win, and Justin Bonsieur would have to finish near the back of the pack or mid-pack at Warsu for Rudolph to win the championship. So good luck to Justin Bonsieur, and good luck to all the guys and gals that participate in the TQs. Cal Ross is the champ kart leader with a 30-point advantage, and Brett Bieber leads Kyle Herve by 15 markers. So the races that are going to be taking place in Albany this weekend will determine 3 champions. And it's a 4-race series, and usually somebody runs away with it, but the competition is pretty tough. And you know, I've had the opportunity. I've raced a TQ. I drove a champ kart in the series called, it was EKRA over 35. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather drive a figure-8 car any day of the week. It's fun, it's exciting, but you know, I raced at the track in Medford on Long Island, and you're doing like 9-second laps. And it seems like as you go into the corner and then you go down the straightaway, you're always fighting the wheel, arms and elbows, as somebody used to tell me, you know, you're all arms and elbows out there. And it's fun. And I know my daughter's boyfriend, Vinny Delaney, drives a champ kart and raced at Atlantic City, had some tough luck. But, you know, I look at him now, he's bigger than me. He's taller and a little broader. And I wonder how he fits into this thing. You know, I have short legs, so that's okay. But I look at this guy, and I look at other guys that get into this. You know, and people say, they're only go-karts. No, these things are quick. And I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say this until the Karting Association, the WKA and the IKA gets my message. I really and truly feel that drivers in the Champ Kart division should wear at least a Hans device. For those who don't know what a Hans device is, it's a head and neck restraint system, and it keeps your head attached to your shoulders and your neck attached to your shoulders. Because, you know, I remember taking driver's ed some 40-something years ago, 42 years ago, maybe 45, and the instructor saying when you're going 60 miles an hour and you hit the guardrail, anything that's loose, even though the car comes to a dead stop with the front of the car, the back of the car is still going 60, and anything that's loose and not tied down is going to go 60. And you're in a seatbelt, and I really think seatbelts in cars, you know, they come across this way. What about this side of your body? You know, you're in a wreck. That's the giving point. That's what's going to go out. But you need to keep your head on your shoulders. And the Hans device, again, for those who don't know, what it does, it's a thing that wraps, it's almost like a collar, but it's open here, and it comes down. And then the lap belts go on that, which now you have a 6-point connection around your thighs and around your lap, and it hooks to your helmet. Yeah, you could do this, maybe, but when you hit, your head isn't, your neck stretches, and I'm going to tell you, when I had that wreck, strapped in, I couldn't reach my mirror. I couldn't adjust my mirror. Wasn't happening. My head hit the mirror, and we know that because the mirror frame had the red from my helmet. I had a black framed mirror. The red from my helmet was all over it, and there was glass, shards of glass in my helmet. So you see that. I didn't believe it, and then when I was a NASCAR tower safety director, I had to watch a film, and the driver was under caution, Johnny Benson, I'll never forget it, in the Cup. They were under caution, and something happened. They were only going 50 miles an hour, and he hit the wall, and they watched his neck stretch, and he hit the bar up here. And this was before Hans devices and all that kind of nonsense. And he hit it, and then they did it like in like super slow motion, and it stretched like almost a foot. Now, thank goodness in his case, in my case, when it came back down where it belongs. Now, I'm not a medical guy, but I've heard of basal skull fractures, and you die from those, right? And as Teddy Bear says, it's not the speed that hurts, it's the sudden stop. And absolutely, and that's what gets you. It's that sudden stop. I'd rather tumble end over end than hit a wall with your foot buried in a gas pedal. Trust me, trust me. But it should be good. The races at Albany, it's going to be a good show. And there's some title championships on the line. And Justin Bonsignor, I've known him since he's a little kid. And I'm going to say about 18 years ago, when I was doing another show, Justin came on live with Steve Hersey, who was also running a TQ this past 2 weekends ago at Atlantic City, and he runs in the INEX Legend Series. And my daughter Jessica, when she was running EKRA, they came on the show, and I look back on that, and they were like babies, and now they were grown and doing grown-up kind of things. But you look back on those things, and I look at all the kids that I remember watching in go-karts, or watching them play with their cars under the grandstands at racetracks. I remember those guys and being little. And now you look at them, and they're big grown-up people, some of them married, kids, and it's amazing. And, as 22 figure eight says, when you think of how Earnhardt died and Ernie Maynard, Ernie the Wrench, driving figure eight cars at Ice Speedway on Long Island, thank you, 22 figure eight. It is a miracle. I guess it just wasn't my time, and I believe you were there that day. And when you look at something like that, you wonder why. Why did Dale Earnhardt? I just watched a video of that, an in-car video of that wreck on some racing channel the other day, and Earnhardt didn't hit that wall any harder than I've seen over the years. Something wasn't right, whether his belts were loose, whether his belts were cut, I don't know. And when I think of like the Ernie Maynard thing, I wasn't there that night, and thank goodness, but when I think of that, and I remember his son Roger calling me up to see how he was doing, and he said to me, I know the car's junk, what about the motor? And I said, Roger, the water pump is wedged into the number 2 cylinder, which meant it went through number 2 cylinder. It went through number 1, and it was into number 2, and the phone dropped. Because I hear the phone bouncing, I could still hear noise. And he picked it up, he goes, my father's motor was the same way. And it gave me chills when you look at, those things. And like I said, in 6,000 races that I've officiated, 6,000 plus races over gosh, I don't know, almost a 30-year period. I've seen a lot of wrecks, like I said, and I look at those things, and I sometimes say, wow, that guy's hurt. He's hurt bad. Let's get safety, and I start directing people, and the guy gets off, and I'm good, waves to the fans, everything's good. And I see others that, man, it's not good. And you're like wondering, what the heck? It's just a tough thing. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We come back, we're going to talk about sponsorships and sanctioning, and then we're going to wrap this show up tonight when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8, Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Rich Weller. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Coming to the last quarter hour of the show. I wanted to talk about sponsorship, at least in the higher levels of racing. And in NASCAR, that would be the Cup Series. I don't believe people realize what is entailed for a sponsor. A primary team sponsor, like in Jeff Gordon's day, was DuPont, Jimmy Johnson, Lowe's, Richard Petty, STP, Dale Earnhardt Sr., Goodwrench. Those deals cost the sponsor anywhere from $5 million to $35 million. Now, of course, the better you're performing, the better you're selling their brand, the more you're going to get. A startup team coming into the Cup Series, they're going to need the same amount of money as the big guys, but they might only get a $5 or a $7 or a $10 million deal. And what that gives you, there's key spots on the car that you put that primary sponsor. It'll be the hood, the rear deck, maybe the roof, maybe under the B-post. You get 5 key spots so that no matter what camera angle on TV you're at, your logo, if you're that big corporate sponsor, will always be there as long as your car's on TV. The associate sponsor is a little bit less. They start at about $250,000 and run upwards of $2 million. Now, when you look at that kind of money, you go to the big companies and you're in the boardroom and you're looking at, spending your advertising dollar. You wonder, maybe there's another way. Now, when you look at this, like yesterday's football game, a 30-second commercial was $5 million and up, depending on when it was. Whether it was pre-game, whether it was at the end of a quarter, at the end of a half, wherever that was. But when you look at these kinds of dollars, it's a lot of money. And 130 of the Fortune 500 companies in America today advertise with NASCAR. Top companies are not concerned now with winning as they were in the early years of racing. In the early years, it used to be win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Whether it was a car dealership or a car manufacturer, and then win on Sunday, sell on Monday. NASCAR fans are loyal. They're very loyal. They'll spend a couple extra dollars on something because, they support NASCAR, I got to support them. And you look at those things, and yeah, that's what we do. But today's different. It's not about winning races. What it is today, it's about having a relationship with your sponsor so that when you see your sponsor, you shake his hand. Other people shake their hand. Other people go to that business and buy stuff because of the relationship. Because that team, that race team, they're not just racing on Sunday. They're going to appearances. They're parking the car in front of the stores, the restaurants, the companies. They have, XYZ day at ABC company with a cars there and people come and there's balloons and candy and all kinds of good stuff. It's building a positive image for that sponsor, creating an awareness to that company. Some of the companies that come into NASCAR, such as Nature's Bakery with Danica Patrick, did not see the return that they were looking for on that sponsorship dollar. There's so many sponsor deals that are going on. And like Jason's saying, he's wondering, today's NASCAR, would Dale Sr. and Richard Petty get a ride today without bringing a sponsor? Maybe not. And people can say, well, you're crazy, they were the best. Because they came in during an era, it was about how well you did and not where you came from and how much money you had in your pocket. They came into racing because that was their job, and their job was to put food on the table and keep the roof over the heads of their wives and their family. Today, you don't have that. These kids come in with that somebody bought them a race suit and a helmet and shoes and underwear, and but daddy has a big checkbook, or daddy's friends with a big company, and I don't know. And when you look at those things, you got to say, wow, it's a whole different era, the Petty Earnhardt era, whole different era. But it's about relationship building, and I was blessed when it came to racing on the other aspect. And from the first day I drove a race car to just not too long ago when I hopped in and did some laps, I never went into my personal pocket or my household funds to go racing. Why? Because I had good sponsorship. I was a good talker. I could market myself and my team, and I could show my sponsors a return on that investment. And speaking of that, I see on social media more often than not, I see Goggles Paisano puts a post in social media, I need a sponsor, I need a new motor. Whenever I see that, I always respond, what does the sponsor get in return? And the person, 99 times out of 100, comes back and says, they get their name on the car. Well, let me rush right over there because I'm an egotist. I want Joe on your race car. No. I want to know, if I give you, let's make up a number, $5,000 in sponsorship money, I need to get back in my business through that team's efforts. I need to get my $5,000 back or more. I'd like to get a lot more. And then somebody going, well, some people just do this because they have money and they want to, help people. Well, let me tell you something. If I'm throwing around 5,000 here, I'm thinking that the federal government's going to think I'm like money laundering. Where am I getting all this money? And I always wonder, guys that go to the racetrack, and especially at a weekly level, they go to the racetrack and they have the name on that car, they own these three. And from what I know, they don't have a regular job. So that tells me they're doing other things, and God bless them if they've done that and they haven't made a trip up the river, and that's okay. But, is when you see that, you're like, there's got to be money launderer. There's got to be, And so then another guy in social media says to me, well, in the thread, well, sometimes you just like a person and you want to help them. And I said to the guy, look, I like you, and I got money, and I'm comfortable, but I'm not rich. And I've spent a lot of money racing over years, albeit sponsorship money, because I did the right thing for my sponsors. If my cars were wrecked Saturday night, if I had to spend a whole night fixing it, at least so it could roll and the body panels look good, that was $1 million. That was a home run. And I got to the point where my daughter, when she was racing me, we were tearing up some stuff. So I got smart. I made body panels. And I had my decal guy have them all lettered up. So I just had to come and cut that mangled putter off and hang the new panels and show up 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning with a nice fresh shirt and pair of pants and and handing out candy and balloons and autographs. That's what we did for our sponsors. We created the awareness. And part of the problem today with sponsors in the top level, like somebody said earlier in the chat room, some of these teams need to put sponsor wanted, because when you see a quarter panel on a Sprint Cup car without a sponsor's name on it, you gotta wonder what the heck. Or on the hood, or on the trunk deck. They go out with just the contingency decals. Yeah, that's because of Jack Rouse or a Rick Hendrick or a Richard Childress had a car laying around and some guy rented it for the day, with daddy's money, or mommy's money, who knows? But those are the things. And, it's this whole sponsorship thing. Nobody could do this without sponsorship. And I've said that on the show hundreds of times. And, and one of the things you got to be careful with your sponsors is watch what you say on social media and make sure your proposals show the benefit to the sponsor, not to the team, and don't be afraid to barter. I had that with a delicatessen. I had to feed people. I had to feed myself. It costs a lot of money to eat the racetrack. So what you do is you get a food sponsor, and I've always had a food sponsor. Imagine that. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up tonight, and I want to just let everybody know that we got some races going on this weekend, coming up at Albany for the indoor series wrap, and following week after that, NASCAR starts at Daytona, and the Speed Weeks at New Smyrna starts next weekend as well. So wherever your endeavors are going to bring you, please be safe, please be careful. Give somebody a hug, tell them you love them. God bless you all, and we will see everybody next week. Good night, everybody.
Inravio.com. Inravio.